On the surface, Buckshot Roulette is a grim Russian roulette horror game built around a grinning, disembodied dealer. But the deeper you look, the more the whole thing starts to feel wrong. And once you start peeling back layers, once you stumble into the emails, the website, the helpline, the archives, you realize the game is only the beginning. This is the complete story of Buckshot Roulette. The story of Buckshot Roulette begins very suddenly. We wake up in the middle of a grungy bathroom. The word "afraid" is scrawled across the mirror, and outside, we can hear the rhythmic beats of nearby music. Kicking open the door, we find ourselves in the rafters of a nightclub, with a strange man smoking on the railings, paying us no mind whatsoever. We storm past the man and kick open the next door, and are immediately met by this thing, this creature. This is the dealer. It's a disembodied head and hands, greeting us with a wicked smile and asking us to immediately sign a waiver. We seemingly already know the drill, filling out our name and immediately begin the game. A shotgun is placed on the table with the dealer loading a random amount of live and blank rounds. We are then hooked up to some kind of machine that gives us a set amount of lives, and then we begin to play Russian roulette. The odd thing is that somehow, after taking a round or two or doming the dealer, we can get back up via some kind of blood transfusion and defibrillator system. If we lose all lives, we black out and wake up in the bathroom once again with the man on the balcony reviving us, telling us, "You're lucky it left you with a charge. Get up, the night is young." Going back to the game and beating the dealer, we progress to the next round. This time, we're given items to enhance our odds. Interestingly, in one instance of drawing items, we grab a bloody waiver signed God. Beating the dealer in the second round, he wants to make things more interesting in the third and final. Once down to our last 2 lives, the dealer will cut off the resuscitation machine and either you or the dealer will die upon being hit. And this is true. If we lose, we don't get revived. We wake up in, I guess, heaven? However, it's warped with spikes protruding everywhere, and once we're through the rusted gates, we float up into the light and are met with the message, "You are dead." Yet if we beat the dealer, he vanishes into the darkness, replaced by 2 glowing red eyes, before handing us a briefcase full of money. We then leave with the shotgun and money in tow, and our earnings are tallied. With the victory, we unlock something called double or nothing mode. Basically, we take some quaaludes and items are unlocked from the get-go. Also, strangely enough, the guy on the balcony isn't there. Anyway, quaaludes aside, what should catch your attention first is that when we restart the game and wake in the bathroom, it's a little bit different. On the bathroom counter, a computer terminal can be seen, its wires disappearing into the wall. And in a small corner of the machine, we can see some kind of pulsating flesh. Booting it up, we see it's a Volta standard electronics computer. And flipping through the tabs, we can find that it's just stats and world leaderboards for people playing Buckshot Roulette. And for all intents and purposes, that's basically the story of Buckshot Roulette. Except something feels off, right? Like there's something missing. More to the story, more to everything. Well, let's back things up a little bit. As the terminal is booting up, we can catch a brief flash of an email address. Contact at Volta Standard Electronics. While at first, this may seem like nothing, surprisingly, this is a fully functional email address, and when emailed, we can find a hell of a lot more info about Buckshot Roulette as a whole. And this also begins the Buckshot Roulette ARG. Now, for total clarity here, most of this ARG information will be coming from this Reddit thread, and I will just be covering the basics and summarizing a lot, because there is a shit ton of text, and we'd be here all day if I read it all verbatim. So if you want to check out any of the details covered for yourself, be sure to check the link in the description. Anyway, after emailing that address, the responding email states, "Greetings, and thank you for reaching out to the Volta Standard Electronics, the perpetual pioneers of technology. Our Volta Standard Electronics helpline is specifically designed to help you with any questions you might have. For example, here's what we found regarding your query." It then displays a string of code. "In case of any new developments, the Volta Standard Electronics helpline will reach out to you directly." Now, that random assortment of code can actually be decoded using something called an Advanced Encryption Standard Block Cipher. The block of data in that email can be decrypted with the password, the shutdown, showing us this response. "They won't ever forgive me, or I will not forgive myself. I made a wish upon a falling star, and it brought me nothing but misery. The machine hungers, fed by booming shots in blood and luck. It is fed constantly. It's chewing, metallic, and vile, and still it brings more comfort than the dance of hell below." Setting this odd poem aside for now, the email address also hid another clue in the name. VoltaStandardElectronics.com. When visiting the website, we see it's like this 90s styled webpage for the Volta company, which states, "Welcome to Volta Standard Electronics website. Explore the latest advancements in trends that are shaping the future of these essential devices, from powerful and versatile personal computers to sleek and feature-rich mobile phones. Stay informed and inspired as we uncover the forefront of innovation in personal computers and mobile phones, bringing you expert insights and product offerings that represent the vanguard of technology." Scrolling to the bottom of the page, we can even find a phone number for ordering products, and when called, we actually get a response.
Thank you for calling Volta Standard Electronics General Helpline. All of our operators are currently occupied. Our hours of operation are 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and if you are trying to reach a specific party, please enter the extension followed by the pound key. If you are calling in regards to an order being impacted by the shutdown, please contact your corresponding regional Ministry of Public Safety and Informational Security. More information can be found at
From here, we can continue our search by clicking on the star next to the phone, and we are redirected to a page requiring a password. Entering this odd string of letters and numbers, not quite sure how people were able to uncover this, but regardless, power to them. We are taken to a Volta employee login page and can read this message. "Hey there, random person. Hey there, Volta f***ers and their dogs. Well, you did it. You have all the cards now. Or do you? You still don't know who I am and how to stop the leak. Life is a funny thing. You think you have control, and then one day you're forced to become a ghost, squeezed out of social life and cut out of communications with the outside world. And I mean, you are masters of this, right? Erasing any proof of existence, even your own. Even if you have to choke and painfully swallow your fucking pride for your achievements. Hiding. Living in the middle of nowhere, constantly looking behind your back as you walk through a completely empty scenery, having a shallow sleep every night because of constant anxiety. I bet you would be happy to read something like that, my dearest Volta, but I was planning this for years and learned everything from the best of their craft. You. Now that we're done with the kind regards shit addressed to Volta, it's time to talk to the broader audience. I think I should apologize for all this silence. But you'd be surprised just how hard it is to set up working comms up the devil's ass, all without leaving a single trace. You must be wondering, though, why the password? It was to keep Volta busy, thinking they have something on their hands and don't have to see me in person, and it worked. I am sorry all of you had to unknowingly work for these f***s under the pretense of some kind of fun game to find the correct key. So what's next? My current bandwidth isn't particularly good, so the dump is still in progress. I will be forced to drop a lot of somewhat meaningless bullshit, but don't you worry, there is enough important information hidden everywhere. More and more clues will drop, but you'll have to piece the entire picture together yourselves. I would just spell it out if I could, believe that. Well, that, and also because I grew fond of your passion and engagement with this thing. And it is very important. You can't even begin to comprehend what Volta is trying to do, what they are working on even now, behind the veil of somewhere else. This thing is capable of turning everything inside out. But since not many people care about the world being at stake, I'll let you know that it will greatly affect your personal life, if that concept itself is going to even survive the aftermath. That's about it. Not the best with parting words, so I'll leave the thought that brought me the most joy these couple years. Fuck Volta. Clicking archive, we can find a string of emails all dating back to 1998 and primarily around August. There are a bunch of things to cover here, so I'll just be summarizing the main points. Again, link in the description if you want to read everything yourself. Starting with finance, we can look at a handful of internal documents. Volta Standard Electronics closed Q3 of 1998 with explosive financial growth and a dramatic shift in its business priorities, while the company remained publicly known for its work in computer technology and for launching a new Sony Ericsson mobile phone model. Its real profits came from a newly formed, heavily classified partnership with an unnamed organization. This alliance revolved around procuring and supplying mysterious biological materials, indirectly referred to as donations, tissue procurement, procurement, and biological assets. Despite the secrecy, the initiative proved enormously profitable, pushing the revenue up more than 370% over the previous quarter. The company's R&D investments supported this new direction. Researchers worked on advanced methods for processing and storing biological materials, including cryogenic systems designed to preserve sensitive neural components for long periods. These innovations strengthened the company's ability to meet the rising demand from its unnamed partner. Even the successful launch of their new mobile phone was overshadowed by the sheer profitability of their biological asset venture, pointing towards the idea that Volta's priorities were shifting away from consumer electronics. Moving on to the HR documents, the first file concerns a young and inexperienced intern in the legal department, being assigned basic administrative duties like drafting and managing documents. Despite a clean record, normal behavior, and no prior performance issues, the intern became the target of a complaint from another employee. After review, HR dismissed the complaint outright. The reviewer criticized the complaining employee for expecting an intern to produce a full, professional-grade partnership agreement, something far beyond the position's responsibilities, mocking the employee for mismanaging their own expectations. The HR note makes it painfully clear that turnover is high, morale is low, and the department has no patience for petty grievances in a workplace described bluntly as a shithole. Another internal exchange reveals tensions with the janitorial staff, who are fed up with the deteriorating conditions of the facility. Their forwarded message complains about rust, stains, cigarette butts, and the impossibility of maintaining cleanliness without proper industrial chemicals. Rather than addressing the issue, HR's response is cold and dismissive, telling them it's not HR's problem, pointing them to their supervisor. Next, after entering this same password, we gain access to the partnership deals and get some of the most important lore for Buckshot Roulette. The draft partnership agreement outlines a joint venture supposedly formed to contain and research a biological asset owned by Pentacle Incorporated, including an ominously named subject referred to only as the creature. The agreement attempts to legitimize highly questionable operations. Pentacle provides the creature and research equipment, while Volta contributes a building, technical infrastructure, and a massive cash infusion. The two companies are normally equal partners on paper, but the financial structure where Volta receives 100% of the profits and operational control over all produced biological assets creates a really odd imbalance. In fact, several sections are riddled with redactions, impossible clauses, and outright contradictions, further reinforcing the impression that the author, that one intern that the guy was complaining about, had no real legal training whatsoever. The attached appendix makes everything even stranger. The required equipment for this research partnership includes medical devices, custom modified weapons, blood-related apparatuses, saws, pharmaceuticals, huge quantities of beer and cigarettes, and a stock of shotgun shells, both live and blank. Internal reviews from both companies show the fallout. Volta's legal department is furious, calling the draft complete nonsense with no legal force whatsoever, and threatening the intern responsible with participation in the same game referenced in the document. Pentacle's legal department, on the other hand, casually approves the draft with no changes, suggesting either wildly different standards, hidden motives, or a willingness to exploit Volta's complete incompetence for their own benefits. The final emails add another layer of clear corporate chaos. One message comes from a redacted pharmaceutical company, offering a new experimental drug that drastically affects blood production, healing, pain suppression, and even psychic invigoration. They want Volta to test it in the wild, implying dangerous, uncontrolled trials. Volta declines, not because of ethical concerns, but because the site used for these experiments doubles as a dumping ground for leftover Coney brand products, and switching drugs would disrupt their disposal pipeline. When the intern handling the mail asks what any of this actually means, the superior shuts the conversation down immediately, telling him, "Do not bother with these questions. Not knowing what you're not supposed to know really helps both to move up on a corporate ladder and to get better sleep. Less knowledge, more personal safety. Consider this both as advice and a warning." The next archive is about more internal documents that continue to paint an unfiltered picture of Volta Standard Electronics as a company rotting from the top down. At the highest level, the CEO explodes in a profanity-laced tirade after discovering the marketing department incorporated a shotgun into a public game of Russian roulette hosted inside an active nightclub. His fury about the ethics or risk of killing someone is more about the potential PR fallout and the threat of everyone discovering their ties to a shadowy partner. Pentacle. Buried beneath all the rage is a rather chilling line. The company is on the brink of a new age, and any screw-ups will be met with violent retribution. From there, communications veer sharply into pettiness, boredom in everyday office nonsense, painting a bleak portrait of a workforce that's totally checked out. One employee proudly mass emails a crude ASCII cat doodle like it's a major achievement. Another repeatedly forgets passwords to something as trivial as the coffee invoice folder, practically begging IT to stop caring about security. Others fill their days with morbid jokes, banter, and passive-aggressive replies. It's clear morale is low, standards are non-existent, and no one takes the company or each other particularly seriously. Threaded through all of these emails is the quiet tragedy of somebody called Cool John, an employee whose upbeat but naive demeanor makes him a target for mockery. His messages shift from harmless positivity to something more ominous, asking a coworker if she would risk everything to get everything, hinting at abandoning his life entirely, and eventually disappearing without warning. When he vanishes, the response from the rest of the staff are disturbingly cold, mocking him, dismissing him, or simply demanding the email chain stop. Only one coworker, Liz, expresses genuine concern, noting that he left behind a strange numbered poem before vanishing. The final archive entry is labeled as end.txt and is a farewell from the whistleblower who knows they're about to be silenced by Volta. They accept their fate as the company's security forces are closing in, and their death will simply become another classified file buried in Volta's machinery. Despite that, they express no regret. Their entire mission was driven by defiance, and they wouldn't have kept going until they were dead or the corporation finally collapsed under its own corruption. As their final hours close in, they admit that there's nothing left in the world worth fighting for. Society has been hollowed out by greed and cruelty, and the only person they cared about, John, is already gone. They reject the idea of comforting themselves with hope or an afterlife. Instead, they confront the truth. There's no light waiting after death, just the cold certainty of violence. What keeps them going in their last moments is spite, not despair. They want their actions and John's death to spark righteous anger in anyone who finds this archive. They want the reader to know that they existed, lived, and died resisting something monstrous, and that preserving and sharing this document is enough to keep their memory alive. Their final message isn't a call to follow in their footsteps. Anyone destined to fight this fight wouldn't need encouragement. Instead, they ask the reader to feel what drove them. Hatred of injustice, a desire to purge the world of cruelty and indifference, and a longing for the quiet, human world that was smothered beneath corporate machinery. They want those who come after to dream of a better world, to remember those who were lost, and to carry that memory forward like a spark that might one day ignite something bigger. The document ends with a simple plea for remembrance. Liz was here, John was here. Do not forget them. The following two archives, legal cases and coffee refill invoices, are currently password locked, and to my knowledge have yet to be cracked, so we'll just move on. The last little bit of info comes from the email once again, because as of November 1st, 2024, emailing Volta will now return with a new message that basically says, Volta Standard Electronics suffered a security breach that exposed internal documents tied to access levels B and C. Anyone with those access levels is told to immediately wipe their corporate emails, disconnect from the internet, delete all work files, factory reset their computers, and wait for the security team for interrogation. After, they'll receive a new PC and can restore needed files from the archive. Non-compliance will lead to serious disciplinary actions, including being fired on the spot. And as of writing this, that is all we currently know about Buckshot Roulette. Okay, so there is a lot to talk about. Volta Standard Electronics presents itself as a harmless tech company, but the internal archive reveals a corporation hollowed out by something far darker. Their financial reports make it perfectly clear that the company's sudden explosive growth in 1998 didn't come from phones or consumer products, but from the procurement and processing of mysterious biological materials. The language is deliberately vague, but the pattern is unmistakable. Volta has become a front for large-scale human experimentation and tissue harvesting, and their partnership with a shadowy entity known as Pentacle Incorporated is the source of all of it. Pentacle basically provides the real asset, the anomalous creature, aka the dealer, while Volta supplies the building, the manpower, the secrecy, and the expendable bodies needed to run the operation. So the so-called Buckshot Roulette game is merely one of Volta's disguised research protocols. The documents show that the game takes place inside a functioning nightclub, disguised as entertainment but built for controlled slaughter. Volta supplies shotguns, defibrillators, blood transfusion devices, and various pharmaceuticals, while Pentacle contributes the anomaly that feeds on violence and probability. Basically, what this is a reputable testing chamber designed to generate whatever biological or psychic output the creature requires. The company's executives are fully aware of how dangerous this is, yet more fearful of financial setbacks and public exposure rather than the cost of human life. The internal communications paint an even uglier picture of the corporate culture. Most employees are clueless, exhausted, or willfully blind. Janitors beg for enough bleach to keep the rust and stains at bay, while HR bickers over trivial complaints and automated systems fire people for security breaches without a second thought. No one flinches when employees disappear. No one investigates when someone goes missing. Only 2 workers stand out as human beings in this overall depressing machine. John, a cheerful, soft-hearted employee whose sudden disappearance is just brushed aside, and Liz, the one person who notices something is horribly wrong. John's final days hint that he became entangled in Volta's testing pipeline. Whether by innovation, coercion, or curiosity, his cryptic numbered poems discovered after he vanished suddenly suggests that he saw something he wasn't meant to see, something tied to the game and the entity behind it. No one at Volta cares about what happened to him except Liz, whose concern drives her toward the truth. As she pieces together what the company is doing, she finds herself staring at the full weight of their operations. Industrialized human sacrifice masquerading as nightlife, a creature siphoning something essential from every death, and a corporation that treats human life like raw material. Liz's final message is the emotional core of the overall archive, and the culmination of everything the ARG is saying. She knows she's gonna die for leaking these files, but she does it anyway, leaving behind a raw, bitter farewell. Her message isn't a call to heroism, it's more of a confession born from spite, despair, and a desperate hope that someone, somewhere will refuse to become another passive cog in the machine. She frames the archive as proof that she and John existed, and that their lives mattered, and that the evil consuming Volta's world can only survive if people stay indifferent. Her plea is simple: remember them, hate what was done to them, and never let the rot become invisible. Even with all the leaked Volta documents and the actual game we play, there are still massive holes in the Buckshot Roulette story. We still don't know the true nature of the creature Pentacle owns. We still have no clear idea what the nightclub game is actually measuring or extracting from its players. Only that the deaths, the adrenaline, and the fear responses fuel something biological and deeply unnatural. Pentacle itself is also completely unknown, approving legally nonsensical partnerships and supplying an organism so dangerous it requires constant payouts for employee injuries, yet giving no explanation for what they're really building. Also, is this the same corporation tied to other Mike Lubnica games? We just don't know. And on the human level, the archive still leaves us with a tragedy full of missing answers. John's disappearance is never fully explained, and Liz's final upload confirms only that both she and John were crushed by the machine they tried to expose. As I said in the beginning, the ARG is still ongoing, and what we're left with is a corporate horror story about a biological phenomenon we're not allowed to see, a conspiracy we're not meant to understand, and 2 employees who died trying to reveal whatever it is.